I wanted to make sure that I came on today and talked a little bit more about the job offers that I had gotten, why I decided to accept this particular offer, and then also what my resume actually looked like to get these offers, in particular the one that I have accepted to where I am now. So let's talk about it. Despite the garbage fire that was happening kind of all around me and the world in general, I had a fairly chill 2020. I still had my previous job at a healthcare tech company, which was fine. That was great as much as it was because it was job security. I didn't really love the stress of what the work was entailing. I didn't feel like I was evolving my skills as quickly, and there was a lot of overtime and a lot of things that we needed to do kind of on the front end as well as the back end, and that was stressing me out a lot. I don't think that helped me cope with what was going on with the world. I am glad in the long run that I was able to kind of sit in 2021 and really start looking for a job that had given me more of that balance that I was looking for, that would let me work from home with a lot of help from so many awesome people. Black Tech Twitter, from my friends and co-hosts from Ladybug Podcast. I finally found a couple of offers that made sense to me. So this is a copy, I printed it out, a paper copy of the resume that I used. Let's just see what exactly I have on here to give you a better sense of what maybe some different resumes might look like for recruiters that are super interested and excited for you to be able to contribute to their teams. I have 2 columns on this particular resume, and I have them broken up into like technical skills as well as what my actual experience was. So we'll just go through the technical skills on the right side first. Basically, I had this categorized as languages, whatever the methodologies that I had actually worked in professionally, some software and tools that I have experience in, as well as certifications. First off, my languages, what I'm actually able to write in terms of code. I had put these down because I was able to have direct examples of what necessarily I was able to do with these particular skills. Like say for SQL, I was constantly rewriting or updating some of these tables to include different data points for different healthcare providers and things. So that was really important for me to actually show as an example going forward. Methodologies is another one where we had worked in a couple of different methodologies. We had been looking to make sure that we had a little bit more organization in terms of the flow of the sprint cycles. Software and tools, Git and GitHub. I have Bitbucket experience, Jira. I mess around with Trello all the time for my creative stuff, as well as things that I've done professionally. IntelliJ, I needed to work in IntelliJ IDEA a lot as a back-end Java developer. Ranorex is a automation tool that helps. It has like a UI flow where you're able to make integration tests, regression tests as well, for whatever code environment, test environment. My certifications. So the Safe Scrum Master certification, I am ashamed to say I have not gotten back to that in a while. And I really think that this year is the year that I'm going to actually complete this. So I'm going to keep this particularly on my newer versions of my resume. If you are wanting to learn a little bit more information as to why I was wanting to do that, I will put links somewhere up above the Scrum Master video, just kind of an overall conversation on why I decided to do that and what exactly is a Scrum Master if you were hoping to take the exam. My big auxiliary work that is most relevant to my experience, of course, is the Ladybug podcast. So I just put a small summary on here saying that I have a technical podcast that I host with 3 other ladies. We discuss code, we discuss design, concept, career, and managing lifestyle while working in the tech industry. I think that is a very short and sweet sentence that really gives the bulk of what exactly we were doing on the podcast. And of course, you link the website on your resume just to make it easier to find whatever the content actually is. Shout out to Kelly, Emma, and Allie again for having me as a host on the podcast. I really appreciate it, guys. And then last but not least, my education. A lot of places are going to be wanting to know, like, how did I get my start, whether or not I'm degreed. It's not the best process, I believe, in the world, because some people are just as experienced and have so much more knowledge than me, honestly, without any type of degree or certification. But just to have that somewhere where people can see that that is something that I have accomplished. I do have a degree, I do have college education. I put that on there, as well as my time at Launch Code, one of the coding boot camps that I went to. Now, when it comes to my experience, I was a QA test automation engineer. Being able to summarize it in these couple of points, I think, is what hits it home. I contributed to enhancing existing test coverage and new feature coverage. I remember my manager at the time saying that we had got test coverages from 40% to 90% based on our efforts, and that is so satisfying and cool to hear that all of our new features were covered and we were able to make sure that old features were able to be covered as well. So I'm very proud of that. I was also able to help figure out how we were going to transition a lot of our test coverages to Cucumber instead of having to use Ranorex as our automation suite. So that was really cool too. This also helped me get the opportunity to teach as an assistant at Launch Code as well as Savvy Coders, and eventually going on to be an actual lead instructor for Launch Code and their Kansas City branch. I am so humbled and happy that I was able to contribute to that. I was able to talk about how I employed adult learning theory to facilitate knowledge for JavaScript as well as HTML and CSS. I had written a couple of exercises in React for some of the students so they can start learning a bit more foundational knowledge on what they need to help render different components on the page. And then finally, I was a software developer and I had made the transition from a QA to a software developer at the same company. I had contributed to modernizing 2 specific applications. We had refactored a bunch of Java code to a lot more modernized with Spring. We made sure that we made the code a little bit more responsive for all of the traffic that was going on to that particular application. On the team, we contributed to figuring out what we were going to do in terms of the structure of our front end. Instead of using JSP, figuring out what we were going to do with React, trying to figure out like what pieces that we needed for making React components much more usable throughout the application. So having those conversations was really helpful and cool, because this was an environment where the applications that we were working on had a lot of traffic on it. It was really important to start having a space to collaborate and figure out like where we were going to fix problems and things. I had definitely facilitated some, I participated in some, I helped fix some bugs, done as much as possible to solve the problem as quickly as we could. But that really is the basis of my resume that had got me these multiple offers. I had to do a lot of soul searching and reflection on all the work that I had done over the past couple of years that had made an impact on my growth in my professional career. But with the support of both Emma Bastian and Rona Pierce and their experience in writing and evaluating resumes, I would have never gotten to this recent version. So if you're in the market and you're needing better advice or guidance on writing a resume, make sure that you check out Emma's LinkedIn course on writing resumes, as well as Rona's coaching program and YouTube channel for refining your LinkedIn profile, as well as building a video resume. I really think both of these are awesome pieces of content, so make sure that you check all of the links out in the description box below. But before I sign off, let me share some of the most impactful advice I got from these two women that took my resume from being 2 pages, very wordy and long, overly descriptive, to a very clean, a lot more defined and impactful 1-page document with only the information that mattered to recruiters and the companies I was applying to. Your resume absolutely needs to be kept under 1 page as much as possible. You really shouldn't be doing any more than 1 page if the experience that you have isn't necessarily affiliated with stuff in the tech industry. If you have more than 10 years of experience, that can be an exception where you need to make sure you're listing out the impact of what you've been doing in tech for those 10 years, so that totally makes sense. I think the same rules apply for people that are trying to get into the industry but don't necessarily have the professional experience within tech. Finding those big impact points from your positions from the last couple of years, 5 to 10 years, that's going to be really important. More specifically, the descriptions of what your role had entailed really needs to have a punch. We need to make sure that you are summarizing the so what of what you had accomplished at this particular company. Do you have any specific data that you had impacted a specific task? Maybe you had automated a specific thing that nobody else was able to do. Maybe you had exuded some leadership skills in a particular position that nobody else had decided to do. Maybe you had helped the company make a certain amount of money. These are the results that people are looking for that will get you more closely into the door to be able to talk to people about your experience and how that is relevant to what you were trying to do in terms of transitioning into tech. And for these particular points, you only need a few, 3 to 5 max. Personal and side projects are another point that I want to make. They speak for themselves. Again, you want to talk about the so what for your project experiences, so you don't always necessarily need a work summary. And in fact, if you can minimize to eliminate a professional summary in general, you might save yourself a lot of real estate to put down more impact statements and bullet points for each of the work experiences that you have had. And last but not least, you need to make sure that whenever you are sending your resume to anybody on LinkedIn, an email, whatever, make sure that you have this document in a PDF so it doesn't lose any of its formatting, so it doesn't lose any special text sizing, any designs that you may have put on it. That is really important to keep it agnostic so nobody loses any of the flair, the impact, or the language that you've decided to mark on your resume. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. Now remember to check all the links and resources in the description box below. Make sure that you leave a comment in the comments section if this video was actually helpful or not. And last but not least, make sure that you like and subscribe this video. I'll see you in the next one.